Anytime I call Skyrim the best game ever made, I'm being hyperbolic because I don't actually believe that it's the best game ever made. It's probably one of the best games ever made, but I just it's my favorite game, decidedly. Um so I would not actually say though that Skyrim is the best game ever made. I was looking at a list of the top selling games ever made, and the thing is that doesn't necessarily equate to, like, the top selling game doesn't necessarily mean it's the best game ever made. Um, and I honestly feel like the best game, like, I don't know, like, is Minecraft, because Minecraft is the top selling game, and it was just so popular with all children everywhere that it just makes me think, like if you were like, could you really put anything above Minecraft as considering it the best game? um I don't really like a lot of newer Minecraft updates. I haven't really played Minecraft consistently in years. um but I think that there was definitely a point, or maybe even if you're just looking at all of Minecraft's history, um, I think you could say that Minecraft at least has been, or it could still be considered the best game ever made, even if maybe not the, like, current version of Minecraft would be objectively the best. But I'm not even sure if this question, if there is an objective answer to what makes something like a game the best, since it's kind of like, some people don't like Minecraft, they just don't really enjoy playing it because it's just not their thing. But so many children enjoyed Minecraft. You would think, and the fact that it is literally the best-selling game, you would think that that would qualify it for being the best game. And it's not like a violent game, or just like, it's not like an evil, dark, like, it's not something like GTA, right, where it's like full of, like, violence and cussing and all these evil things. Minecraft's a very clean game for the most part. The only thing that I don't really like about Minecraft is that it has its own depiction of hell, which you can go into. I feel like that should have just been left out of the game. I think it's kind of tasteless, and especially if you're a person that believes in hell, it's really weird. If you really think about it, like, it's more than tacky. Like, it's kind of gross. But I've been listening to this guy on YouTube who is talking about the Elder Scrolls games and Skyrim, and specifically, and talking about why he hates Skyrim. And in fairness, he said that he doesn't really actually hate Skyrim. It's just, that's the word he's using to describe how he feels. But he's basically saying, like, that Skyrim is a watered down version of the Elder Scrolls, and it's not really a true Elder Scrolls game. And he likes Morrowind and Oblivion, and I think he has said that I don't know if this is still his opinion, but at least at a few points in some of his videos, he said that, like, Daggerfall was the best Elder Scrolls game. I don't understand anybody that likes Daggerfall over the other Elder Scrolls games. In theory, I can understand why Daggerfall is appealing, but that's only in theory, because every time that I have tried to play Daggerfall, I drop it very quickly because it's just a very boring game and it's aged atrociously. I just trying to play Daggerfall, and basically I went to the palace on the mission that the Emperor sent me on, and I was basically told that I wasn't high enough level. So they basically told me to go away and go do something else. Even though I was just told to go and do this quest. I mean, I get that it's two different people. So like one person's telling me to do this and the other person's like, yeah, you're not strong enough to do this, so go away and go do something else. It's still weird game design to put me on to a mission and direct me somewhere, and then when I get there, they just tell me to go away. And it was very unceremonious. It wasn't even like, we've been expecting you. It's just like, yeah, I'm not ready for you to go away. Like, oh, okay. It's like, why would you even give this mission to me? Because like the Emperor made it a big deal. Like for some reason he comes to me, so that I can go and investigate this matter. But it turns out that I'm not even very strong. Like you could take the average city guard, and they would be more qualified to start with than me at investigating like this whole matter with Daggerfall. So like I was like, okay, I guess I'm not doing the main quest right now, so I'll go and do these like procedurally generated RNG quests, right? So I go to like an inn or something, and I find this woman who, by the way, has a model and position in the inn that is basically a duplicate of, I'm assuming from the size of Daggerfall, of like thousands of other inns in the game. The only thing is like her name is like procedurally generated, I guess, which I don't remember what her name was. So I talk to this woman and she gives me this quest. She says some assassins are trying to kill me and they're coming to my house for like 3 hours from midnight. I don't know why she didn't just say 9 p.m., but she says 3 hours before midnight. So I was like, okay. So then I'm trying to figure out what time it is, and then I figure out what time it is, and then I have to figure out where her house is, because I realized she didn't really tell me where her house is. And so I tried to talk to the NPC again, and I couldn't talk to her at all. Like, so it was someplace called like the Mooring Residence or something. And I'm like, okay, I have to find the Mooring Residence, but I can't talk to the quest giver even though she's right there. The game just won't let me interact with her again. So instead I talk to a random NPC, and I'm like, where is the Mooring Residence? And they say, oh, it's northwest. It's northwest, you say. So instead of like, specific directions, which I understand why this is, like because of like all the procedural generation and everything. I understand why the NPCs can't give me specific directions. I mean, maybe they could have, like if streets had names and stuff in the game or something. They could have told me, oh, that's on this street on the north side or something, but it's not like that. So the NPC can only tell me that this house is northwest. So I'm like, okay, I'll go northwest. And so I just do that, and I ask a few more people, where is this house? And they'll be like, northwest, and they say north, like southeast. So I passed it. So I go back. This house looks like every other house, obviously. And then I enter it. And then my character says, this matches the description of the house that the woman told me. So he says this to himself, but the thing is that she didn't actually describe the house to me. And I had to get directions to the house from random people in the city. That's just weird. It's just weird. And the weird thing is that the game would have highly benefited from giving me a quest marker like they do in Skyrim. But a lot of the hardcore players complain about it. The thing is I don't really see the difference, aside from it being more of a hassle for me to stop and talk to random NPCs in Daggerfall and ask them, where is this place? Because basically all that happens is I just talk to several NPCs until I kind of zone in on where I'm going, and then I find it. But that's not really very engaging, and I can't imagine like playing the game for however long, definitely not hundreds of hours, and like trying to find people's houses in the game and having to repeat that process every time I wanted to find a house. Like, I was just playing a bit of Skyrim earlier, and it kind of hit me like how annoying the lockpicking system could be after playing the game for hundreds of hours. But like the lockpicking in Skyrim, I would take that any day over this system where I have to find a procedurally generated house by talking to procedurally generated NPCs, and for them to give me a vague sense of direction of where I'm going. And I would prefer a quest marker over that any day of the week. Because there's nothing very like fun about having to ask for directions in that manner. If the NPCs were able to tell me like if they were able to physically point, and I obviously understand why they couldn't do that, but like imagine an NPC like physically pointing to where you need to go, or like telling you the name of the street or something, right? Or even like taking you there. Like in Skyrim, like the newer games, sometimes like somebody would just take you where you wanted to go. Like they're like, oh yeah, like follow me, it's this way. And that's pretty cool, like that's really immersive. But we don't ever, like for some reason people don't recognize the steps up that the newer games had in immersion. For, I don't know why. Like, I truthfully, I honestly don't know why. But, we're able to point out every single tiny downgrade that makes things a little bit less complicated and gives us better quality of life. So anyway, I get to this house, and she tells me 3 hours from midnight. She doesn't say 9 p.m. She says 3 hours from midnight, the assassins will be at the house. So I wait, and this is like, first some rats show up, and it's like, how are there giant skeevers in the middle of the city? Also, where are the city guards? Like, okay, never mind. So I kill the rats, and then I wait again, and then an assassin shows up. And I guess the thing is, I saved right before waiting. So I thought that was good enough, because I expected, like I could just, if I died, I could wait again, and then the assassins would show up again. But it was only one assassin, and I go up to him and I die instantly. And so it's like, okay, I'll just try that again, because like, maybe, I fought an orc earlier and he did a lot of damage, but I was able to kill him right before he killed me. So maybe I can do the same thing. Maybe this guy isn't that strong. And so I just tried to wait to get the assassin to show up, and I just couldn't get him to show up again. After I reloaded the game, like he just wouldn't spawn in. And it was like, this is not engaging. Like, this isn't even fun. And like all I would do would be just kill that guy and then get a large sum of money, and then like pick up some other procedural quest and do the same sort of thing, or like maybe even pick up the same quest, because I remember I've played Daggerfall before. Sometimes you can get like the exact same quest, it's just in a different location, and it's like, what? There's nothing fascinating or interesting about this. In fact, this guy that I was listening to online didn't say like why he thinks that Daggerfall is the best Elder Scrolls game. Because I think that, obviously, Arena and Daggerfall are the worst Elder Scrolls games. The thing that fascinates me about Daggerfall is the scale of the world. And I think if they did something with the concept of making a country that size, with that many towns and villages and dungeons, if they experimented nowadays with making something like that, I don't think that like the Elder Scrolls team should do this now, but maybe some other people. You could make a very interesting and like fun world to explore that was procedurally generated, that was massive. Because the thing that's so interesting about Daggerfall is obviously like just how big the world is. Even though every single like town and city looks the same, and every dungeon is like one room, and it's like a tomb, like except for the special ones. For real, like it was so stupid, like trying to get into Daggerfall one of the last times. And every single time I went to a dungeon, it was the exact same like model for the outside and inside. Like I would go down the stairs, you could go left and then you could go right. And you would like find the sarcophagus and that was it. Like that was literally it. And like you would go to different dungeons and it would be that over and over again. Like they couldn't even like have the dungeons procedurally generate. I would have preferred that they had like a bunch of dungeons that procedurally generated, and even if the procedural generation sucked and some of the dungeons were not completable, that would have been preferable to the experience that I had trying to like have fun in dungeons exploring the world in Daggerfall. So Daggerfall has like the worst exploration of the Elder Scrolls games that I have played. And I haven't played Arena, and actually, maybe I did like one time, but I basically haven't played Arena. I haven't played the Elder Scrolls Redguard. I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online. So I've played Daggerfall. I've completed Morrowind. Like I've explored the whole world of Morrowind. I've completed Oblivion, and I've explored that whole world. I've completed Skyrim several times, and I've explored that whole world. I believe I completed Morrowind. I think I actually only beat the final villain once in Morrowind, but I got very close to doing it like a time before. I just decided not to, I think. I don't remember exactly why. I think I underestimated how, or like I overestimated how powerful you had to be to defeat the final boss, and I just never got around to it. But I've completed Morrowind and like basically 100% of it. I like explored the whole world and done everything you can do in it. And I've done the same with Oblivion once or twice. And I've done that with Skyrim like 3 or 4 or 5 times. And you know, it seems to me that Skyrim is the best Elder Scrolls game. And when I'm listening to this guy online rant about why he doesn't like Skyrim and how it dumbed down the Elder Scrolls and how it's the worst Elder Scrolls game, and he says like if you think that it's the best Elder Scrolls game, like you're an idiot or you just don't get it, like you don't understand what an Elder Scrolls game is. I'm trying to figure out like what the frick these people are talking about when people say that Skyrim sucks. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of the times, the things that they say just don't even make any sense. I don't understand what the fascination is with Morrowind's combat, especially the melee combat. There's been a few times in Morrowind where, you know, like, I was having trouble with an enemy. So I'd get like a potion or a scroll out or something. And, you know, maybe it's like I'm fighting a Frost Atronach, so I throw a fireball, or like I use this scroll or that scroll. A lot of times Morrowind's problem solving can be very interesting, but it usually doesn't happen. And usually what happens is you can just pull out your longsword of like 1 to 15 shock damage and defeat most enemies. Like especially if you're doing like a basic like warrior, like a melee like knight or a barbarian or just some sort of fighter in Morrowind, it's really not that interesting because it's like, I guess you kind of like use a potion or two if you need to, but usually you don't need to do anything like that. And you just kind of left click and hold left click to defeat the enemies around you. And archery isn't not an any more engaging system because I mean, it's like you just point from far away, and the enemies don't really dodge in Morrowind or anything like that. They just kind of like run up to you, or they're like a cliff racer, and then the game decides whether or not you hit or not. But in like Oblivion and Skyrim, obviously it's like, well, if you aim well enough, then you hit the enemy, which is how it. I guess I'm not gonna say it's how it should be, but especially for a first-person game, I think it's definitely an improvement, and it's a bit more. It's a bit more like Oblivion's archery is not interesting. Oblivion's combat is not very interesting. So I guess we'll talk about like Morrowind and Skyrim. Skyrim's melee and archery combat is just way more fun than any other of the other Elder Scrolls games. And it's just not even close. It's like if I go in to a crypt and I'm fighting a bunch of different Draugr, which I just did like a few hours ago, because I just wanted to like feel around with Skyrim, because I'm like trying to understand these criticisms that people have. Because with their whole thing with Morrowind is like the fatigue system and how it affects hit chance, and like that's it. Like they're just fascinated by the like how having lower stamina will make it harder to hit enemies. And like that's it. Like that's what that's what to them what makes combat in Morrowind so much better. They're like, there's all these background system, like all these like dice rolls and like the background stuff that you don't even see. It's like it's running all these calculations you don't even know, and like your chance to hit goes up or down depending on like your stamina. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, why is that so interesting to you? Like, it's really not that engaging. It's really not that amazing. It's like, just have your stamina up and then fight the enemy. Like, it's not even, and like that's it. Like the melee combat doesn't really get more interesting than that. And it's like you choose your weapon, so maybe you have like your sword and your shield. But the thing is, you don't even manually block in Morrowind. The game does it automatically depending on your skill. And then you just spam left click. Like, that's melee combat in Morrowind. But you don't understand because like there's like all the like the fatigue and like depending on your like your stamina, like alters your chance to hit. I know that, like it's not that interesting. And then these people will say that like, oh well, like stamina in Skyrim doesn't even matter. It definitely does, because it saves my life. Like, if I have stamina, and a lot of times if I don't have stamina, then I'm gonna die. If I'm fighting, if I go up to somebody with my sword and shield in Morrowind, and like that's the build I'm running. It's like maybe I can use like a strength potion or something. And like that's like I can buff myself, and like that's the interesting part of that gameplay, I guess. But oftentimes you don't even need to do that, so you just kind of like, because that would just be a waste, right? Like, why would I do that for every enemy? I better save that for the tougher guys, and then you do that like every now and then, and that's fun and that's interesting, but it just doesn't even happen that often. And oftentimes even if an enemy is like very powerful, you can just like if you die, you can just reload and try again, and the dice will be more in your favor and you'll win. There's literally nothing interesting about fighting an enemy, and like maybe you don't have like any more potions or spells or anything, or maybe you just don't even bother to use them because you're like, I'll just re-roll the dice and then I'll win. And that's exactly what happens. There's nothing interesting or fun about that whatsoever. But like in Skyrim, if I'm fighting a guy, and it's usually like more than one person, But you're in a melee fight, and it matters, like you're in control of your blocking and of your swings and like your positioning and your reaction to the enemy's animations, because like if they're doing a power attack, you can back up, or you can block, or you can bash them with your shield or with your weapon and interrupt their animation, and that uses some of your stamina and it saves you from getting hit. So like there's one of the ways that stamina does matter in Skyrim, is you can just use it to interrupt enemy attacks. And you can also use it for your own power attacks, which is going to let you do more damage, but it's also going to make them stagger a lot of the time. Actually, that's not even true. It doesn't even always make them stagger, because there is other background systems in Skyrim that people don't realize are there. So because they can't see it, because it's a background thing. It's like the same way that it happens in Morrowind. So like sometimes you'll power attack an enemy, but they'll have, their own stamina, and it won't cause them to stagger, and now you've put yourself in a bad position. So you have to be careful. Like, it doesn't always work. And so after you do a power attack, there's a moment of recovery, and now this like Draugr white overlord is swinging at you, and you're like, oh crap, and half your health bar goes down because you thought that you were going to be able to stagger him with your power attack, but you overestimated how much, like, he's already used a lot of his stamina. There's a reason that weapons in Skyrim, like a lot of them have stamina draining properties. It's because it helps you fight the enemy if you drain their stamina. You just don't see it, like it just doesn't show you like that the enemy has stamina. But people think that Skyrim's combat, like all these purists, I guess, they think that the combat in Skyrim is extremely basic, where it's basically just swinging your sword, and that like that's it. But it's not. Like there's your whole positioning and your reactions to the enemy's swings, and what sequence of moves that you do. It matters a lot especially when you're fighting like a bunch of Draugr, or if you're fighting like a saber-toothed cat. Some of the funnest enemies in Skyrim, it can sometimes be fighting a saber-toothed cat, and at a certain level. There's a period of time where, first of all, if you're low enough level, you're just not even gonna be able to fight a saber-toothed cat. You just have to run away. But there's a point in the game where like you won't have very much health, but you'll have like a bit more, and like a bit more stamina after leveling up some, and your equipment will be a bit better. And if you're not careful, that saber-toothed cat will get you really quick. But if you are careful and you're able to respond to that cat's animations, like its movement, and you like shield bash it and you power attack it at the right time without letting it get its own hits in, just by being smart, then you can kill it really quickly. And this isn't really something that you can do in like Morrowind. I don't think it's something is it something you can do in Oblivion? I don't think that shield bashing is even a thing in Oblivion. Do power attacks even stagger in Oblivion? I don't even know. That's kind of weird that I don't know that. But Oblivion I've played the least. I've played more. Well, maybe not. Maybe I have played more Oblivion than Morrowind, but I don't know. It's probably around a time. But like people don't even recognize like how much more sophisticated the melee combat is in Skyrim, or like even the archery, like how you can zoom in, or you can up your chances for critical hits and things. Like these people are all about the RNG and like the random rolls. Like you can get the perks that do things like, well, now there's like a 10% chance of a critical hit, or 10% chance of causing bleeding or something. Or if you do a certain like key combination, then you're gonna do a special move. Or like if you do a standing power attack, which kind of makes you vulnerable because you're not moving, obviously, then you'll use like what is it? Is it use less stamina or do more damage, something like that? But there's all these different like you have to know like what you're doing when you're fighting a tough enemy with your melee, and you gotta know like when to block and when to bash them with your shield and when to power attack and when to move out of the way. Something that occurred to me is like just how much more interesting it is to fight something like a skeever in Skyrim and than like every other Elder Scrolls game. Oh, Oblivion almost did it because the way that the skeevers will like leap at you. They're called rats in Oblivion, actually. They're only called skeevers in Skyrim. It's like a different species, but it's a giant rat is what it is. So in Skyrim, like they have better pathfinding, and they'll like leap at you. And the leaping is something where it's like it's really hard to avoid that attack, but you can still do it, or you can just block, or you can like bash at the right time, or you can see it coming and you can ready up your own attack or your own power attack so that you can hit the rat as it's jumping at you before it even gets you. Like there's a lot of these different options you can do in response to how the enemy is moving. And it occurred to me like these other Elder Scrolls games, they don't even have enemies moving in interesting ways. But in Skyrim, like all these different creatures, they have their own little quirks of movement that cause you to have to like aim differently and respond differently to what they're doing. But in something like Daggerfall or Morrowind, it's basically the same as like fighting like a melee bandit. It's just it has like less health and you aim downwards. And there's no like the whole movement element and like the whole like pressing like WASD, like stepping out of the way. Like you can do that, but it's just not really the same as it is in Skyrim, because it's like if you're doing that in Morrowind or in Daggerfall or something, you're basically just putting yourself like outside of that zone where the enemy can like register or like even begin the attack. Like I guess it basically, the most complicated it gets when you're dodging enemies' attacks like that is like you move in really fast and like hit and then press S and like you kind of like jiggle like S and W to try and like stay out of the enemy's way, and you kind of mess with the enemy's AI. But in Skyrim, it's like a skeleton will swing at you and you have to physically move out of the way of his sword, and whether or not he hits you is going to depend on whether or not like the sword actually hits you, like whether or not you're in range and like whether or not you move it out of the way. Or you could like block. You can manually block. Whereas in something like Morrowind, you have to like just rely on your blocking skill. So there's more, obviously there's a reason why like Skyrim is more of an action RPG than like Morrowind or something. But people don't give it any credit, like the whole combat system in Skyrim, any credit. And I think it's honestly because they don't understand it. And they think just because it's flashier and more responsive to the player's actions that it's not as complicated. But it's like very obviously more complicated. If you actually look at all of the variables, like, and that, like not just statistics of like and like hit chance, but like the 3D world and like the fact that you can move around in it, or like how you can dodge arrows or like step behind something and take cover from a spell or something like that. That whole the whole like fighting in 3D space is a lot more real in Skyrim than it was ever in any other Elder Scrolls game. And again, it's like people don't like they just don't understand. Like I don't know what difficulty these people are playing Skyrim on. I'm just playing on adept, and it's interesting enough to me. And granted, it's I think that they made a mistake with Skyrim, because if I was going to design the combat for a game like that, I would give the player a baseline level of health, and maybe they could increase that with like an enchantment, or maybe you could have it to be different depending on what your race was. But I think I would either have a baseline level of health that all characters had, and then you could kind of modify that by like, if you're wearing heavy armor, then of course you're going to take less damage, right? Or maybe like if you're not wearing armor, then you can move out of the way faster of hits, that sort of thing. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, I don't like how Skyrim lets you, the way you upgrade your health by choosing to upgrade your health. Like, I don't like how that's an option. I don't think that the player should be able to level up to the point where getting hit by enemy attacks basically doesn't affect them, which is the main problem with Skyrim's combat. If you handle that variable yourself by just deciding to not, like what I've done, I think I'm like level 26 right now. I just haven't leveled up my health past 150, and the game is still enjoyable and engaging in every encounter, because I have to take into account that like I can't get hit by these power attacks or these other attacks, and I have to use my stamina to like bash and power attack, and I have to step out of the way, and I have to block. Like I actually have to block to survive. So yes, Skyrim does have this massive flaw in its combat systems, where you can just upgrade your health to the point where nothing really matters anymore. And that's basically the main problem. And but if you solve that issue, then it's really good. And maybe they could have made it so that blocking actually used stamina instead of health. I'm not really sure, because I don't like how when I block, I take health damage, or like I don't like how if I block, then and I'm low enough health so that the enemy just kills me anyway. But if you think about it, that's basically what would still be happening if he was taking down stamina damage, because if it did that, what they would do is basically like if you ran out of stamina, then your guard would be broken and you'd like stagger or something, or maybe you would just fall down, or maybe then you would start taking health damage. But instead what they did is decided, you know what, let's skip the middleman of like the stamina part between the health and let's not put the stamina in between the health there. Let's just make it so if you block, then you only take a little bit of health damage. Like that still makes some sense to me. So I don't know if I would necessarily change that. But the main problem with Skyrim's combat is that you can level up your health too highly and things start to not really matter. But the thing is every Elder Scrolls game like has that problem, and the combat in like every Elder Scrolls game really just isn't that good. But Skyrim still has the best combat, like hands down, and like that's not even a contest. Like you can't even say, like you can say whatever you want about a lot of things, and you can have your opinion. Like you can enjoy the dice rolling combat more personally, I don't really see what difference it makes, aside from like one thing. So like, I'm talking about the dice rolling combat here. If I'm playing Morrowind and I swing my sword 10 times, then I'll do so much damage. Well, if I'm playing Skyrim and I swing my sword 10 times at an enemy, then I'm also doing so much damage. It's just that in Skyrim it's a guarantee, and in Morrowind it's a random chance. And so it kind of averages out there. But like potentially, you know, maybe you hit more times or less. But the thing is it's kind of just stupid to like fail a combat encounter. Like you just get terribly unlucky and then you don't hit at all. like what is even happening? But in Skyrim it's like, okay, you're guaranteed to hit, but your skills still have an effect. And you know, like if you're using a weapon you're not good at, obviously you're doing less damage. And you know, it's still calculating like what the armor that the enemy is wearing. It's like at the end of the day, like what's the real difference between this combat where I am guaranteed to hit and this combat where I'm not? And the real difference is basically just that it's more consistent and fair in a system where you're always guaranteed to do damage when you hit, and you're getting that feedback to the player that so they're not going to be frustrated. Whereas with the dice rolling, it's like what is even really the point of telling me that I didn't hit like 8 out of 10 hits? Because what you could have done is just said like, okay, you hit, but you only did this much damage each time. And you could just have it like average out. And like you could still just have the numbers. Like you're the developer, you can control everything. You can control, you know, how much health the enemy has and like what it means. Like if it even matters if you hit 10 times or not. Because you could say like, okay, you hit 10 times, but you only did 10 damage. Or you could say you hit once, but you did 100 damage. Like, you can just make it however you want. Like, the main difference here is how the player feels about what's going on. And the thing about being able to always hit when you actually swing your weapon at an enemy is that it's giving the player some sort of feedback, and there's also, like, the guarantee that their efforts are actually going towards something. And it's fair, right? Like it's just fair. And if you die to bad dice rolls, all that really happens in the game is that you just restart. And then there's probably a chance that you can just restart, like reload, and then try to fight the enemy again and would succeed. Or you could buff yourself and give yourself a higher chance, I guess. But that's like really weird because it's like all you did was just increase your chances. But with the more action RPG style of like you're always actually hitting the hits, basically if you fail that encounter, then that's actually on you. You know, you still had all of your character skills. So like you still had these like bonuses and these negatives and these factors of like your armor and your block, like your armor and your damage and your skill and the enemy's armor and their health. But it's completely fair because the outcome, like you have all these set circumstances, but the outcome isn't like dice rolled. It's still dependent on like what you do and how you do it. And it's like, well, maybe you failed, but you got 80% of the enemy's health down. And so like, you know, like, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what I can do better next time. Whereas with the dice rolling system, a lot of times what happens is sometimes you just fail just because you got bad rolls. And then it's like, well, that's it. And it's like, there's nothing really interesting about about that. Like, it's just not. And yeah, I know you can like you can boost your odds, but the fact remains is that there's still going to be times where you're going to die because of that chance that you just could fail the rolls. But when it comes to the consistent guaranteed damage, there's no rolls that you're failing. You're just either like missing your hits or you're not by how you aim. And you're getting hit or you're not by whether or not you move out of the way or whether or not you block. I don't really understand what's like, because in both systems, like in Skyrim, you still have your weapon skill and you still have your armor bonus. Um, and in Morrowind, you have your weapon skill and you have your armor bonus. It's just that I feel that the combat is more engaging in Skyrim because you already have like those skills. Like there's still factors. It's just now you don't have the random dice rolls. Like what is so fun about the random dice rolls in a game where you can just reload and try again? The thing about random dice rolls in RPG games is it's supposed to have an interesting outcome if you fail. So the problem with doing that in a video game is that usually the video game isn't designed to do anything except just have you die and try again. But like in something like if you were actually like playing like an actual tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons, you die like and you stay dead, or like now your friends have to resurrect you, or like now you create a new character, or like, well, now this story is over, like this is how you died. And that's part of the fun of that game. Like the game doesn't end just because the dice rolls didn't go in your favor, but what's more is that it not only does it not end, it actually like branches out in a different direction. The problem with doing that in a video game like in Morrowind is that if you die in Morrowind, you just go back to where you were and then try again. And you might point out, well, like, yeah, it's like that in Skyrim too. Okay, but in Skyrim, you don't have these random dice rolls. You still have your weapon skill and everything, and you have your armor and like the equipment that you've picked. But you're not going to be subject to fate where you might just die just to have to reload. If you die in Skyrim, it was your fault, and so the solution is to have a different strategy. But sometimes if you die in Morrowind or in Daggerfall or something, the only real option, especially at lower levels, is to just reload and try again. And there's not really anything interesting about that. But if like I'm fighting a tough enemy in Skyrim, what I usually find is that I can just switch up my strategy and like do something else. Like that's the thing, is I have the option to do something else if I died. Because I know that if I did the exact same thing, if I took the exact same course of action, then I'm going to die unless like the enemy AI just decides to do something else. Which, you know, I guess sometimes happens, but that's just like not really something you can avoid in a video game. But I know that in Morrowind, I can do the exact same thing in any given scenario. And like it may succeed or it may not. And I don't see anything compelling about that game design. There's nothing interesting to me about a game design where I can take the exact same course of action and I'm either going to succeed or fail depending on a dice roll. I do not understand what is at all compelling about that. And there's nothing interesting to me about like applying bonuses to myself to increase my chances of success when I could just reload the game and try again until I succeed. Like, it's not only a problem with failing, like failing is not the only problem with the dice rolling, but it's also a problem that I can succeed without changing what I've done. That's a huge issue for me. Like, I do not like it at all. And I don't understand why people are so, like, they're so elitist, and they're so, it honestly feels like it's just like posturing, like it's, I'm smarter than you because I'm playing the game that, like, and I'm not a graphics person either. So like, don't say like, I'm about to say like, basically, people think that because they're playing something older and like, um, there's a higher chance that you're just going to die because the dice just decided that makes them more hardcore. It's like, it's really not. It's just not a very interesting game. Like, people think that people don't play Morrowind um, as much because of because like people aren't like hardcore enough, or like not a real gamer or something. And the reason that people don't play Morrowind is because like it's not as fun. Like, there's so many flaws with these older games, it's not even funny. Um, it isn't. Like, it's not even funny how terrible some of the design decisions were in some of these games. And I will never understand what is so fascinating about dice rolling combat to people, especially when failure doesn't really put the game on any different path. It just means that you kind of have to try again. Um, Something else about Morrowind that I'm going to complain about while I'm talking about it is, well, here's the thing. These people that are so purist, that say that they hate Skyrim, and they like Morrowind is the only, or like Daggerfall, they're their only good games. It doesn't make sense. And you can find like points where like, they'll say something, like you can tell that like there's a lot of nostalgia here, and like it's not real. Like, their opinion isn't real. Like, I'm not saying they don't feel that way, like, because they do feel that way, but it's just because that's just their feelings. It's not like a logical. A lot of things that they say aren't logical. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they'll criticize the ways that like the game became easier and funner to play past the point of sanity. And like a good example of this is like, if you want to complain about how slow your character moves in Morrowind, instead of just acknowledging that it does suck how slowly your character moves in that game, and that it is massively disrespectful to the player to force them to move that slowly when they're sinking hours and hours of their time into the game, when they're just trying to have fun, instead of acknowledging that that is a very real flaw of the game, that you move so slowly, they will try to find some way that it is actually better that your character walks that slowly. And they'll also say that you're just stupid for not being faster because, oh, you could have chosen this sign and now you could move faster, or like, oh, you could have like chosen this character class, or like you could have had higher athletics. That's not the point. The point is that you should actually, as a developer, be on the player's side and help them try to have fun while they're playing the game. Like, you just don't understand. And like, they'll say like, it's actually better because it like immerses you in the world when you have to like walk really slowly. Like, nobody wants to walk slowly. Like, people have lives. We have things that we have to do. We only have so much time on this earth. And you're forcing me to walk super slowly because of the technological limits you had at the time or something. And people just refuse to acknowledge that that is an actual flaw of the game. Like, you could look, it gets to the point of insanity. Like, there's some people who will be like, Morrowind looks better than Skyrim. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, just don't say stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense, okay? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you can't say stuff like that. You just can't say stuff that is just objectively untrue. if you find the art style more charming, that's fine. Like, if for whatever personal reason you like it, you can like it, but you can't say that every aspect of this game is better just because it's an older game and because it makes you feel more special and niche and like you're in some special club because you like it. It's perfectly okay to enjoy the game, but it's like you can complain about these things that are completely reasonable to complain about, like the walking speed in the game, and people will just say like, "Oh, you're just stupid." Like, no, like I can find ways around this, but you can't deny that this is just bad game design. Like, it just is. You could have just been on the player's side and helped speed them up a little bit so that they can actually enjoy playing the game. Like, it's so stupid when a game is just designed badly, and yeah, there's like ways to get around it, and people will call you stupid instead of acknowledging that the game just sucks.